And when I was on the Somme, there was officers being killed, so of course I went through his pack, do you see, to find his identity and see what his address was, see to write to his next of kin. And I came across a little book. Well, it'd only be about 6 inches and about 4 inches wide, cloth bound. The Traveller's Guide, it was called. And there's small incidents in. Well, in there, I'll never forget it, there's a big chasm between two glaciers or two cliffs. And there was a bridge across. And this bridge was called Respectability, a plank. And there's a gentleman that's dressed up, of course you can tell it's years ago, with a tall hat and so forth. But this plank doesn't, and see, one side's called earth and the other's heaven. But this plank is about so many inches off reaching heaven. See, respectability won't get you to heaven.
Yeah.
Charlie first. I think it'd be about 1921. And we got very pally, Charlie and I did. And to my way of thinking, he was one of the finest pitmen, both practically and what should I say? Practical and mental. He was one of the best, Charlie was. But there's this one point: he could not rule men. He got his manager's papers, and he got, I think, about 6 letters behind his name. I couldn't tell you what they were, ME, you know, so forth, for engineers and that. And at one period, he was the president of the engineers of the potteries. You know, they have one every 12 months. Well, he was the president. But as for ruling men, he was an impossibility. He'd such a temper.
Yes.
See, and in 1 minute, he'd empty the pit, and then he'd sack everybody.
Yeah.
See, but of course he didn't have that much control. But he'd sack everybody. Well, there came a gentleman along, see, might have been 19... round about when the war was on, the last one, 1940, wasn't it? 1942.
Yes.
Well, there came a gentleman along to Parkhouse, Mr. Bromelow, an assistant manager.
Yes.
Well, he was big pals with Charlie. Well, with Charlie having such a wide experience and such a vast experience as Charlie had got, he instilled it into this young man, because the only young man Bromelow was, all that he knew, and Bromelow thought the world of him. Because Bromelow, I'll make this plain, Bromelow was the finest gentleman that I've ever known as a pit man, was Mr. Bromelow. He died, he wasn't much age, in his 50s. Well, he became ventilation officer for the whole of Great Britain in the collieries, did this Mr. Bromelow. But he thought the world of Charlie. But Charlie's latter time that he spent in the colliery was what we call, what's the word? Building off or sealing off.
Old workings.
Yes. See, well, when you come to an old working, they draw all the material out, wood and every mortal thing that there was. And then he may have put about a 12 yards or 20 yards pack in the roads and seal it off with stone dust, sand and pieces of rock. And that was Charlie's job. And he did carry it out to the letter.
Did he? Where would he get this stuff to seal it off?
Oh, it come off from the bank. Oh, a lot of it come from the bank, but then he'd get lumps of rock and that from round about where he was working. But oh, he supervised he worked himself to the bone practically to see this job was done right.
Well, he was thorough, was he?
Oh, he was thorough.
Mm-hmm.
And there he'd be messing about there with his safety lamp, testing whether there was any wind coming through or whether it was solid and it, oh, he used to be a nuisance, tell you the truth, but get his work done properly. Now, in regards to his own life, he was I'm overrunning this one. The peculiarity was this. When he'd been in the bath from under the shower, and he came into the lockers with a towel around him, of course, you can put this down, with a towel around him, and he had a white shirt, always starched, and a collar, peaky collar, you know. But he always put his shirt, collar and tie on first. Before he put his trousers on or his pants or anything, that was always first. Well, I was coming past one day with another fireman, and his legs were fairly thin, Charlie's. And I said to this fireman, I said, look here, Dan. I says, "Kassim." Potted I like to say, "Kassim." Look, they said, "Gandhi." Well, this chap was fairly big corporation. He dropped on his knees, and he laughed. And then he gave me a round up of curses for making him laugh because I said it made him bad. Oh, and then Charlie, of course, I gave a round of curses, say, because I'd pointed at him and called him Gandhi. But I found out he was a gentleman, if you understand what I mean. Yeah. Charlie was all right, he was very thorough. Now, in regard to his home life, I don't know how you better. His home life.
Well, I'm the only one listens to this, so you need to bother.
I don't think as it was too great.
No, I heard that from Samson Leach.
Yes.
And his brother.
Yes, Harold.
Harold.
John. It wasn't too great, his home life wasn't, because I went visiting when he was ill on one occasion. Now he lived in just below the bridge at going for Hanley, below that canal bridge, you know. Those houses on the left-hand side are going to Hanley. Well, there were only 2-roomed houses, cottages.
Yes.
Well, he lived in the front. And he got all his paintings and everything scattered around in the front. Well, he used to be in there on his own. And his wife only used to bring his food in. They hadn't used to mix at all. So, of course, I never went into details. I didn't want to do. But one picture, one etching as he did, you call it etching, don't you, with the lead, like pencil or charcoal. It was the pit bottom at Park House. Now, I'd just had this pit bottom done. I'd have been in charge of it. And I should say it was 50 to 60 yards in length, perhaps 100 we'll say. And it was rings, you know, semi-arches.
Yes.
And you put struts in between to stop them from moving. Pieces of wood about a yard long in between. Well, we had steel later on. And you could have stood at one and looked up and you couldn't see another one. If you understand what I mean. They were all dead in line. Well, Charlie drew that. And he also put 2 men walking down, and he said who they were. Walking down this archway, see?
Yes.
But and the rails and all, there was 2 sets of rails. It was perfect. Never saw anything like it. And then he says, look at those. Then on another painting he'd got some of houses and so forth, and some of where he'd travelled, castles and so forth. But one that took my eye was a bunch of tulips. He'd had them in the window, these tulips. There were about half a dozen in a vase, and the sun had broke through. And the different shadow and shade on these tulips. It seemed as though he could have gone like that and had taken them off the canvas. It was beautiful. I tried many times to get the painting off him, but I couldn't. He had a show, you know. And he was always deep in thought.
Was he?
Aye, sometimes when you spoke to him, it didn't register. Well, I'll tell you what it was. The real reason that he couldn't control men was this. I think he suffered really from hypertension, do they call it?
Yes, yes. Hypertension.
I think that was the trouble. But he seemed as he wanted to do a thing and he didn't think anybody else could do it as good. See, he might have been self-opinionated. I think that word would suit him. But taking him on the whole, that was the reason he couldn't control men at all. Go. Without any mother, see, go. Get off. They come out of the mouthful. Get off on the bank and get your cards and cart yourself off and go. You no good, he. If he was a good man. See, he couldn't control himself.
Did the management have to warn him about this?
Oh, they warned him, but of course man didn't take any notice of him. See, the manager told the man for take no notice, see, in regards if he said for sending him out of the pit.
Oh, I see, yeah.
See, we got a new fire apparatus. See, firefighting. Well, I was in charge of this firefighting apparatus. Well, we got a wagon like a big tub affair, full of water, and we got kind of one of these stirrup pumps. So Mr. Bromlow was with us, and Mr. Ogden, he was on the manager, and Charlie was with us, because Charlie had got to come and say this affair because he hadn't seen one before in the pit, and I was supposed to be in charge of the firefighting apparatus. So, force of water would go perhaps 30 yards with a stirrup pump, you see. You put your foot on it, you know, and then you put your suction into the tank, then you could hold the like this, do you see, and pump away like mad, and it'll go well. So Charlie's he stood about 10 yards in front of me, directing operations. Supposed to be a fire on that side, see? So he said, put it on that side, so I did do. He said, there's some over here. I did do. So I mustn't have been quick enough like a moving again. And he come out with a mouthful. So I looked at Mr. Bromlow and, so Jimmy, he was conflict. He knew what I meant. I turned it on Charlie, but Charlie's, he went mad, but he come out of the pit for changing. I gave him a drowning. He come out of the pit for changing, but he said, I'm not going with you no more. He said, firefighting. I said, well, you shouldn't have told me then. Oh, well, we were all right together, Charlie was. He was a big pal. This shows the man. When he was sealing off, there was two men as weren't all together there. You understand what I mean? Well, if they went to work with anyone else, they used to sneer at them and pick at them and do. Well, they sent these two men work with Charlie. And after they'd been with Charlie a while, wherever Charlie went, these two men went with him. They were like two dogs after him. And they thought the world of him. Because he mothered and fathered them, he did everything, and he looked after them. And they worked like little niggers. Now, with them, you see, there was another side of Charlie. He didn't sack them. See, there was the humane side of Charlie there. Oh, I looked after them two lads. He did, he looked after them. I won't mention, one was from Newcastle and the other from Chesterton. Things didn't go just as he liked, or he wanted. For instance, if he was drawing a ring, and above it, that drawing arch, and above it was soft stuff. And when you take, same as if I knocked your legs round here, you'd fall, wouldn't you?
Mm.
Well, when it drew this, it'd fall, see? And it'd perhaps make a big cavity up above, which he didn't want, because it'd take some sealing when there's a big cavity up above. Well, it started the men over that cavity, though they could help it.
Mm.
See, well, some of them wouldn't stand it, see? They'd give him shout back.
Mm.
See, because they answered back, because he belonged to the age as a man should not speak back to a boss. You understand that, don't you? Because in my younger days, you couldn't speak back to a boss, because the work was so scarce and so many men for it that if you'd a man put it on, this is a good one. I think at a lot of the youth has worked at Jamage, that's closed down, that's over Torquay. And he wasn't altogether what was meant to, you know. So he went in and he was this he worked with his head a bit. He used to want to work on the bank in the summer, but go down the pit in the winter, say, for dodge the weather. So he went inside the boss. So he'd worked nearly all the summer on the bank and just getting towards cold weather. So he went inside the boss. So, of course, they'd talk Potty dialect. Islip, his name was, boss. He said, Mr. Islip, he said, can you find me a job down to pit? I said, this works on bank, doesn't it? He said, ah. Now, he said, he wants to listen to this lad, he said. They started cuckoo, he said, they must have Santa Claus and all. Perhaps there's some of the old women who have got his painting now.
Where would you find a bad woman in the potteries in those days, Mr. Mountford? Where would you find them? Did they have them? Were they around?
Well, at the different pubs.
Yeah.
Angel was one of them. And they better be careful, you know.
It's all right, now.
Because they can have you for...
Well, it's just
But
you.
it was a bad place, that was.
The Angel.
Oh, what terrible. There was one that... Mind, it's only from hearsay. I never frequented them because...
No, a man cannot get a woman easily, I don't think, in the potteries nowadays. I've never found out how you do it. But was it easier then?
Well, if you went to certain places, you couldn't miss it. See, there were certain pubs that were noted for it.
Did they take the men home? Did they take the men home?
Well, some of them took them home, then some of them went into some dark alley.
That couldn't have been much fun.
Because if you read Honor the Potteries, it gives you a bit of inclination there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I've got him eating out of my hand.
How was that then, if you were so young?
Because I used to humour him, see?
Yeah. In what way?
Well, sometimes if I thought he was getting a bit worked up, I'd agree with him if I didn't. Then he'd calm down, and then I'd tell him after he'd calmed down where he was wrong, as I thought, and then he'd listen. It was over some black damp in a place. And I said there was some in. Well, I put it in my report. Foreman's report, which I'd got to do. To cover myself. And I'd fenced it off. Put a wooden fence across, you know, so no one would go near there. So Charlie went through and done the manager, and he said that there was no black damp. I said there is. There isn't. I thought that's all right. Well, I said, listen, I said, if you pair go in there, I said, I shan't fetch you out. I said, you can stop in for as long as, well, you can rot. I said, I shan't fetch you out. I said, you're not going to cause me to lose my life or save you two. I said, and I've told you there's black damp. There wasn't. I said, all right then, I said. So they went so far. Come back, I said, what's up? I said, who stopped you? Of course, Charlie come out of the mouthful, he says, you know who stopped you? I said, well, I told you, didn't I? Well, black damp, you know, it's a peculiar thing. See, you've got methane, that's ordinary coal gas. Then you've got black damp. Well, your methane shows a little blue flame on top of your lamp, on top of your oil flame. See, just like just little cap. Same as Dunce's cap, it's 2.5%. Well, black damp gets between the flame and the wick. And he will say that's the glass. The flame will go up to top of the glass. Just like a little fairy. And your black damp's between the flame and the wick. But the moment you take it out, the flame will come back again on top of the wick. For the simple reason is this, your black damp is heavy and your coal gas is light. Coal gas is always in the roof and black damp's on the floor. The farmer was to look after safety, mostly, and examine all the places and likely places for gas and all that, and look after welfare of the men. He never showed his authority too much. He used to let me do a lot on my own. Say because Charlie could trust me. See, then with me being reared in the pit, before I took my papers, I knew I'd done every job as there was in pit coal cutting and every mortal job as there was. Yeah, I wouldn't send a man to a job if I couldn't do it. She says, if we had a big fall, well, Charlie many times sent for me to go to it. And I've told Charlie go round and visit the area, make a visit for me, and I've stopped and timbered it up. See, because I'd been brought up in it, if you understand what I mean, to second. Same as you writing, it's second to you, but I'd been brought up in the industry. You'd say that he was a baritone.
What did he think of your religion? Did he ever mention it?
He was religious to a point. He believed in the cross. Well, I believed in the cross. If he could, he used to shun it. I couldn't get him into any deep argument. But yet he used to love hymn singing.
Did he?
Because I remember on one occasion, we'd come up the pit. It's going as it's working.
Yes, yes.
We'd come up the pit, and I'll mention some people's names now. There was George Sampson, he was a deputy. Sampson Leach, he was a deputy. Before he was old, that's what, he was a deputy. There was a chap named Tom Howard, he's passed away. Dan Dunning, he's passed away. And Charlie, who were all in the office. And we were together, like we were waiting for Mr. Bromwell to come as we could report to him before we come off the bank. See, because we got to report to an higher official, or you either under manager or manager before you come away from the workings. So, George Sampson says, "I'll trumpet, mate." He went down. Oh, I said, all right, come on, he said, let's have him or two. Charlie says, go on, he said, sing him or two then. So we went through them book practically. And I knew hymn tunes and the name of them, a lot of them. See, although I'm not a musician, don't understand a note of music. So I said to him, like when it sang through, I said, and I got me back towards the door. So I said, do you know this tune? I said, it's a children's tune, I said, but it's a beauty. I said, I love this tune. Now the day is over, night is drawing nigh. Children's tune. So they said, we don't know it. I said, dead off, don't talk so daft. And he wrote, I said, I'll strike it up and then you can chime in. I struck this tune up. And I sang the first two lines and there wasn't anybody chiming in. When I looked round, Bromwell stood behind me, the manager. Say that's why they hadn't chimed in. Oh, I said, I didn't know you were there, Mr. Bromwell. He said, carry on, James. He said, I was enjoying it. He said, it's a credit. He said, when I can find my under officials, he said, singing and happy. He said, it means a lot to me.
Mm.
And Charlie said to him, he said, I've enjoyed it, Mr. Bromwell.
Mm.
But I'll tell you this one about Bromwell, you know. This is going off, they were big pals, him and Mr. Bromwell.
Mm.
But Mr. Bromwell, he was a gentleman. I never seen that man out of patience or out of temper or anything. This is Mr. Bromwell. And if he said a thing, same as me, he'd say, now you'll see to it, won't you, James? I should see to it. More than happy to come out with a mouthful and curse me, if you understand what I mean.
Yes, I do. Mm.
His word carried a weight. Well, it was in the paper. They'd got 2 children. So they had a third. And it was in the Sentinel. So my youngest daughter, she was expecting the first. Well, you know, she was looking through the paper and names. You know, she didn't know whether to be a boy or girl, but it happened to be a girl. But she was looking through the paper, their births. Oh, she said, Dad. I said, what, Lily? She said, Mr. Bromwell, wife, he has had a baby. I said, well, I said, I didn't think I was a fast man like that. You know, I said, I didn't care. But anyway, it was. So a day or two after, I saw him in the office. I said, congratulations, Mr. Bromwell. What for, Jim? What for, James? I said, I saw in the paper where they've had increase at your house. He said, yes. He said, I said, I expect you've finished now. See? He said, no. Well, he said, I don't know. He said, that's hard to say, you know. Yes. Well, I said, I'll give you a bit of potty advice. I said, in potty dialect. He said, what's that? I said, it's potty word, you know. As long as bull runs in file, there's danger. Well, he laughed. He said, I'll remember that one. Oh, no, I knew his Charlie was loose leather. Mm. That was what his trouble was at home. Loose leather. And you don't know, and I don't know, whether, when he had his leisure moments as he retired, whether that hymn singing that we'd done in that office had a bearing on it. You can't tell, can you? He might have thought that over. Mm. He might have thought about it all. They used to say as I was going along the road, sometimes you'd hear him say, hey up, he's coming. Mm. And they very rarely they'd swear.
And Charlie Brown realised this as well.
Charlie wouldn't do much swearing when I was there. Mm. Of course I used to tell him. I told under managers and all. I had 1 or 2 under managers after that Mr. Ogden finished, as were filthy. And we had one of the managers was filthy. I told him, I said, hey, I think you want washing your mouth out, that won't draw coal, you know. I told him in the office in front of the other fireman. I won't mention his name, that shows you how you can alter people. This manager, he was one that was come back us because we had a lot, you know, when the NCB took over, they were chopping and changing all the while. We had one there. On the surface, he was a gentleman. But when he went down the pit, he was one of the biggest clowns that ever broke bread, his mouth. So I went in the office one morning, and things had gone wrong in the evening, like in the night shift, and I was the last fireman to go off the bank, so he sent for me in the office, the manager did, for giving me a round-up. I was the only one, see, the others had gone. So he started. But he didn't curse in me direct, but the officials, he kept saying the officials and deputies. So all on the desk were all the reports from the afternoon and the night reports. There was a pile of papers like that for him to sign, see, because he had to sign them. But why I tell you this, you'll see in a moment. So I just stood against the window like this with my arms folded and just smiled a time or two as he was swearing and going, letting him get shut of it. See, I didn't interrupt him at all. Looking at him. Didn't answer him, it upset him more than if I'd have answered him, I'll take it, see. So he said, Christ, man, he said. I jumped across the table, about as far as me to the city. I hit the table with my fist. Just to see them papers fly, they flew all over the place. I said, listen, you've gone far enough. I said, you can use any other name you like to me, but don't use his name as you have done now. I said, it's blasphemy. I said, don't use it again in my presence. For one thing, you know, and I mentioned his name, I said, it shows you're bringing up. I said, I was brought up, I said, in a poor home, I said, but whether you've been university or college or where you've been, I said, you've been dragged up. I said, you know as I don't use his name in only in reverence. I said, and you come out with it like that. I said, if you weren't the boss, I said, there'd be trouble here. I come out of the office. The next morning, I went across the bank. Good morning, Mr. Mountford. And ever after that, man always spoke to me and treated me as a gentleman. And I don't mean be goody-goody wings sprouting or anything like that. But if you'll act what you believe, it's deeds that count, isn't it? You can repeat this if you like. This was God-given. Serious, this is very serious. I lived up above, just round the corner. I know this is not on Charlie Brown, but it's worth repeating. Just round the corner. And you could give this to Good Samaritans if you like. And I come out of the house one summer's evening for have a walk. I used to walk a lot, of course, when I was younger. I used to go miles. Wife and I know, but this night I went out on my own. And I come to the bottom of the street here, and I stood down, I thought, I wonder which way to go. Whether go up and go round by Dale and all round that way for All Sages Bank, whether to go that way and go all round by Bradwell and that way before those houses were built, of course. So when I got to the bottom of the hollows, that's Carter Street, where that garage is, there's a gentleman across the other side. I knew him. Hey up, Jim. He shouted. I said, hello, Arthur. I said, I'm coming across. I went across. Where'd going? I said, I'm going nowhere particular. What's your dialect, of course? Come on, he said, have a walk. I said, all right, we'll have a walk round Bradder. That's Bradwell, of course. We started off. I thought myself I was in some trouble. So we talked and talked till we practically got to Parkhouse Colliery, up Talk Road, before it was a dual carriageway up there. Then we turned and come down. So when we got to where Victor Valleys used to be, it's Tesco now, he stopped. And he shook hands with me and he wiped his eyes. I says, what's up with you, big babby? You know, I didn't know what to say, see. Well, he said if they hadn't come to me tonight, I was going to commit suicide. So look at it which way you like now. It's age of scoffers, a lot. But why should I turn out, and why should I stop at the bottom of the street and wonder where to go, not know where to go, and thinking whether go that way or that way, and I go that way, and I say that chap from committing suicide. Well, how far have we got?
Just back up.
To Tesco?
Yeah. No, just he became a Sunday school teacher.
Well, afterwards, he became a Sunday school teacher at the Congregational Chapel, Chesterton, and he was a Sunday school teacher for years. A while ago, you can put it on that, a while ago, this is through the number of years, I saw a man down, a lady, up the park. I'll go up have a bowl in summertime, and it was too hot to bowl, and I sat down and this lady come and sit beside me. Of course I know all those times in the village had been, lived in the village all my life. I said, but she wasn't too old. I said, what's up? I said, you look down. She said, can I have a talk to you? I said, I said, you can talk. I said, it won't go any further. Of course, she's passed away now. So she talked. It appears as they were nearing a separation, her and her husband. Some difference, but anyway, they were nearing parting. So when I left her, I come home and I didn't say anything to the wife. So when I said my prayers at night, I prayed about it, and a way for open up as I could, a way to open up as I could find a way to tell them. So a few days after, I dropped on him, their husband. So I'm talking to him a bit. I said, I'd been on the wall. No, he said. I said, no. I said, it's earthy nost. I said, what's up with her? I said, is there anything wrong with her? When he didn't answer for a bit, I said, is there anything wrong with her? He said, there might be. I said, there is. Listen, I said, go on. And if they hasn't done this for months, I said, throw the arms round and tell us they loved her, I said, and kiss her. Now, don't forget. I said, don't think 'cause I'm going daft. I said, I'm telling you what to do. I dropped on them a week or two after they were as happy as anything. And just a word. And I got them together. And the last time I preached at the Wesleyans before it was taken down up top end, just previous to finishing the sermon, there was a nice lot of young people in. I thought I'd make an appeal for converts. And they were at the gallery, straight to back of the gallery. I had 4 young men that come from back of the gallery and walk straight round and come along the communion and comes down to the communion rail. 2 of them young men is local preachers now, off Nantwich way. One of them's on the forces, police force. There's one of them who was in Sunday school. He went in the army, and every time as he came on leave, he was Sergeant Major, I bet as he came and saw me. Those 2 as went to Canada. Whenever they come over, they come see me. I taught them in Sunday school. It's nice, you know, because I've been teaching 50 years in Sunday school. I'll tell you what they generally do. They book Sneed Arms up at Tunstall.
Yeah.
And they have one room there, and there's a bar, of course. Well, the welfare committee, and with money out of the union, they provide what refreshments you want. I mean, in regard to sandwiches and that, you buy your own drink. And then, of course, there's the different higher people who make the presentation, do you see? Well, it was managers made the presentation to me, this one. You give me this chair. Yes, not spent some time in to know. I went because he was ill.
Oh, I see, you went because he was ill.
I went because he was ill.
Had he retired then?
No, he hadn't retired. Oh no, he hadn't retired. I went because he was ill. And I went into the house, and goodness gracious, you might have been going in Charles Dickens. A big grey tour. And all round, on an old, what they call a dresser, we call them sideboards, was packed with paintings. There was some hung up. And I said, what about one, Charlie? But Charlie wouldn't part.
What was his illness at that time?
I think he was run down, you know, nervous debility, I think. I think he'd perhaps been doing a bit too much night work. I was sure, to tell you the truth.
Did you know?
That she only just come in with the food and went straight out. Peculiarities, but mind, he wasn't a bad man. When you were reckoning him up, he wasn't bad. There was good points.